Hello everybody, Jim Arroyo here, Oath Keepers of Yavapai County and the Yavapai County Preparedness Team. I'm coming to you today with an emergency report, which I was hoping to get out last week, but we had a bit of a problem. So we're going to put it out now with the information, but everybody's been following this, I'm sure, but it was dealing with the longshoreman strike. And we were battle tracking this right from day one, as soon as we even heard this was going to be an issue. But I had found a piece of information on the Appalachian Prepper 2.0 is the name of his site. It was a TikTok video that he put out, and it was really good. It was very clear and concise, explaining almost day by day what can happen. So I'm just going to quickly go through it, since the strike, we know, has now been suspended. They are going back to work, but I want to give you the breakdown because this was pretty alarming, and I agree with everything he said. And we looked into this, and it was absolutely credible what could happen. So what he had put out was, like, on day one, the international fuel shipments would be first to feel the impact. Oil tankers stuck offshore means no new fuel entering the refineries. Now think about that for a minute. Without oil coming in, doesn't go to the refineries, there's no gas. That can cause a lot of problems. By day two, gas stations would start to bear brace for immediate shortages, as well as the airlines. And think about the trucking industry also. Any disruption to the fuel system is crippling. So that's absolutely the most vital thing that we have is oil. Gas stations begin to run dry by day three. Rationing begins and prices go up. Trucks can bring in supplies. Grocery stores have shortages. If a truck can't get diesel, guess what? No groceries coming in, guys. Simple as that. Everything moves by truck, and the vast majority of stuff coming into this country comes in by shipping container. By day seven, within the first week, truck supplies grind to a halt. If they can't get fuel, they stop working. They don't allow them to pick up product at the docks. Everything starts to slow down. By week two, we could have power grid struggles and collapse looms. We're talking economically, this whole thing can go down. Power plants that require imported fuel begin to shut down, and power grid goes in jeopardy. All right. Stock market plummets, unemployment rises as factories shut down. So it's a snowball effect. One thing happens over here, it causes a problem, then this causes a problem, and it's all the law of unintended consequences. By week four of a complete shutdown, we could end up in total societal collapse. No fuel, no trucks, no food, starvation begins. And just always remember this: no ports, no fuel, everything grinds to a halt. That's the most critical thing. If fuel stops, America stops, all in the month of October. That was a potential outline of what could happen. We aren't saying that's exactly what will happen. It could take a little longer, could take a little less, but you understand the problem. Anybody that was following this understands that this is why we prepare. Stock up now, top off supplies, and check your equipment. All right. What was the first thing that started to disappear? Okay, I live here in Arizona. I'm nowhere near the East Coast. Guess what disappeared first off the shelves? Toilet paper. Again. By day two, there were already massive shortages in the grocery stores. By day three, empty shelves, guys, just like during COVID. Empty shelves again. And then what we had learned is something like 80 to 85% of all the toilet paper is made in the United States. It doesn't come in by the ships in Connex boxes, shipping containers. 10%, roughly 15%, is split up between Mexico and Canada. So if Mexico and Canada are manufacturing our toilet paper, that's brought in by truck, not by ship. So obviously what happens is people panic buy. That's just human nature. After what happened the last time during COVID, where everything ground to a halt and they started restricting trucking, that's why toilet paper blew off the shelves and they couldn't get it in, because the trucks weren't running. They had everything blocked. So obviously, when they tell you don't panic, that's the time you start looking at it. You start watching the news, if you start to see something that even remotely could cause a problem, you jump on that and you get out and you get topped off, you get your supplies. You should have all this stuff already. But if you don't, people are the people. They just wait till the last minute and they're not really prepared for anything. Food, water, medical supplies, communications, guns and ammo, shelter, all of this stuff is critical. As far as ammunition goes in the firearms industry, a lot of ammunition is imported. Not a lot of it is made in the United States anymore, and there's very limited supplies of the stuff that is made here. And the prices are outrageous. I know, I'm in the industry. So that could be a problem also. We're heading into winter, okay? It is right now, it's early October, and we're getting ready for the winter months. You gotta be prepared now. Don't hesitate, get your supplies together. This strike right now is on a temporary hold. They're going to go back to the bargaining table on January the 15th. How they pulled this off, I don't know. But we saw already within 3 days what problems were starting to arise. Had that thing gone a week, I was told that a week, 6-7 days of shutdown backlogs them almost 6 weeks. The ships start loading up out at sea. They can't get in to unload. And overseas, they're just not going to send in any more ships if they can't unload them. But there are those that are already en route. So you see what can happen in just a short period of time. Thank God they decided to settle. Apparently it was something, they settled on 62% pay increase. That's over 6 years. Okay, that's about 10% a year. That's not a whole lot for what these guys do. They were asking 77%. But they're going back to work. They're already back on the job. But this is going to come around again in January the 15th after the election. But guess what January the 15th is? That's just 5 days before the inauguration. We are in such political instability right now in this country. Nobody knows what's going to go down. Nobody. 2 serious assassination attempts on the president already. I'm talking Donald Trump. There were actually multiple assassination attempts that were thwarted. Probably right now it's about 4 or 5 different ones, but you know, you've seen the 2 most popular ones. They're going to try to take out Donald Trump. They have to. If the Communist Party wants to maintain control of this country, which they have control right now, this is how they have to do it. So even if he gets elected, there's still a pending sentencing hearing that hasn't taken place yet. And what are they going to do? We're talking right after the election, November the 10th, I believe it is, 10th or 12th, they're going to hold that hearing. He's still been convicted of 34 felony counts, whatever the hell it is. Look, guys, they're going to do every dirty trick in the book to maintain power. Kamala Harris is going to be placed in the White House. She's not going to be elected fairly. They're going to try to cheat. Everybody knows how this game is played. We've seen it the last 2 election cycles, okay? The media can say all they want that, oh, it's conspiracy theory and we're just election deniers. No, there was some serious cheating going on, and we have a lot more evidence that's coming out. And between now and the end of the year, more and more stuff is coming out. So we know how that game is played. So what we can tell you right now is take this opportunity that we just dodged a major bullet, so to speak, to get prepared. That's what we're all about, is just getting supplies together. And we're going to talk a little bit about the hurricane in the next video, but I'm telling you right now, for all you guys that don't live in a hurricane area that can be affected by that type of situation, you need to be ready so that we can offset some of the stress on the system. Buy stuff while it's available. It's not hoarding, you're stockpiling. Hoarding is what you'd buy when there's no supply available. There's plenty of supplies out there. And there's really no reason not to have extra food and water on hand, medical supplies, and understand in a simple injury how many supplies you can go through. My wife just got into a mixed martial arts bout with one of our cats and got scratched pretty good. And we went through quite a few medical supplies. Of course, we're well stocked, but I went and topped off to replace everything that we used. It doesn't matter what I have. Trust me, yeah, I went out and bought more toilet paper because I knew what was coming. But I add that to my stockpile, and that way if I have to be able to give some to my family or my neighbors, I've got extra that I can use. But get extra supplies before the event happens. As soon as I heard about the truckers' strike, and this was almost a black swan event because none of us knew this was happening. If you're in the industry, if you're part of the trucking industry, or you're part of the Longshoremen's Association, or you're involved in anything to do with unloading the shipping containers, the Connex boxes, they knew what was coming down the pike. But I talked to a lot of people out here on our end of the world. I said, do you know there's a truckers or a longshoreman strike? And he said, I have no idea what you're talking about. So people aren't paying attention. But the minute that thing came across the wires, we started talking to people. We put out an email to our roster. We got out over 1,000 emails to our roster telling people this is the potential for what can happen. So get out there, get some more supplies, get everything you think you're going to need. That's absolutely vital in any kind of a disaster, especially if there's going to be supply chain shortages. Now, people ask me, well, what about the West Coast? Well, apparently, the way it worked is the ILA, the International Longshoremen's Association, controls the ports from Maine all the way down around Florida and all the way into the Gulf Coast into Texas. The West Coast is a different union, so they were still working. But it was at least 50% of all of the stuff that's imported into the United States comes from that eastern seaboard. The West Coast cannot keep up with the demand. There's no possible way. So the bottom line is they wouldn't be able to be of much use. Fortunately, here on where we're at in Arizona, most of the stuff we get probably comes from the West Coast. A lot of it, including some of our fuel, comes out of Texas. So gasoline to certain parts of the state come from Texas, and other parts of the state, it comes from California. So we're very aware, and it's something you need to look into depending on what state you're in. Find out, where does your gas come from? Where do your groceries come from? Where are the shipping hubs? You know that in certain parts of the country, they have a massive trucking hub, which is where all of the containers that come in on the West Coast go to a place called Adelanto. It's out in the desert of California. And then from there, it divides up and it ships to many different states. You need to know where your supplies come from so that you can keep an eye on things and have a heads up if there's going to be a shortage. And that way you don't get caught with your pants down like many people did. And I'm sure just like before, people showed up at the grocery store to buy certain items, and the shelves were starting to go bare. So had that strike gone on a few more days, you would have seen a significantly different picture inside that grocery store. Okay, guys, basically that's what I've got for you. Pay attention to this. Let's hope they come to an agreement before January the 15th so they can sit down, negotiate it, and everybody's happy. These types of events are rare. Keep in mind, this is the first time they've had a strike of this nature in almost 50 years. I believe it was 1977 was the last time they did a strike like this. So nowadays, with all the stuff, food that gets imported in, coffee, sugar, all kinds of other supplies that come in from China. Let's face it, our economy is based on what the Chinese are making and selling to us. So pay attention, be ready, and let's get set up for the next event. Thanks, guys.